How's it going? Dave from Comic Book Investments. So in this video, we're gonna go through the top 5 of each age. So that means modern, that means copper, bronze, silver, and gold. The top 5 of each of those categories, and we're gonna see how they did in the year 2023, where they started and where they ended. So now maybe not every book sold exactly in January, maybe sold in February or March, but we're gonna take the first sale of 2023, compare it to the last sale of 2023. So basically that 12-month span, and we're gonna see, did it go up? Did it go down? How much it went up by? How much it went down by? What was the biggest gain? Which was the best one? And the way I rank these top 5 is a lot of it had to do with price, but also popularity as well. So maybe one's more expensive than the other, but it was higher up on this list. And I am not doing any variants. So no variants whatsoever. This is just normal cover A. No variants of any kind, no price variants, no error covers, none of that. And I'm gonna do every single grade. If it's sold at least twice, because we need at least one in the beginning and one in the end, I'm gonna put this on here. So you're gonna see every single grade in that particular comic book and see what it sold for, see how much it went up. Let's get into it. So first up is we got the modern top 5. Let's see how it did in 2023. At the number 1 spot for modern comics, we had Invincible number 1. A 9.8 is up 17%. In the start of 2023, it sold for $2,979 for a 9.8, and now it ended at $3,500. That is up 17%. A 9.6 is down 18%. From 1700 to 1401. A 9.4 is up 17%. A 9.2 up 73%. From 810 to 1400. A 9.0 up 3%. An 8.5 down 19%. An 8.0 up 15%. A 7.5, no sales on that one. A 7.0 up 19%. And then pretty much 6.5 all the way down, there is no sales of any kind. In the year 2023, it averaged, all of them, was up 13% across all the grades. The biggest gain, 73% for a 9.2. The biggest loss was 19% for an 8.5. Coming in at number 2 is we got Walking Dead number 1. A 9.8 started the year at $2,100 and ended at $2,757. That is up 31%. A 9.6 down 17%. From 1450 to 1700. A 9.4 down 14%. A 9.2 up 8%. A 9.0 down 9%. And an 8.5 was up 24% from 750 to 931. And that is the last sale in those grades, none below an 8.0. And it averaged the year at 4% up for all the different grades. The biggest gain was a 9.8 up 31%, and the biggest loss was 9.6 down 17%. At number 3, we got Batman Adventures 12, first appearance of Harley Quinn. A 9.8 started the year at 2,700 and then it ended at 1,860. That is down 31%. A 9.6 started the year at 1,025, then ended up selling at 775. That's down 24%. A 9.4 down 22%. 9.2 down 13%. A 9.0 down 8%. An 8.5 down 33%, an 8.0 down 20%. But then a 7.5 was up 5%, starting the year at 430 and then ending it at 450. A 7.0 is up 8%. And then a 6.5 down 12%. Then we didn't have any for a 6.0, but then we got back to the 5.5 down 11%, a 5.0 down 10%, and then a 4.5 was up 19% from starting the year at 235 and then ending at 300. And that was the last one in that all the grade ranges. It averaged down 12% for 2023. Its biggest gain was a 4.5 for 19%, and its biggest loss was an 8.5 for 33%. At number 4, we got Ultimate Fallout number 4, first appearance of Miles Morales. A 9.8 started the year at 1,800. That was the very first sale of the year, and the last sale of the year was 1,400. That is down 22%. A 9.6 started the year at 675, and its last sale was 550, down 19%. A 9.4 down 29%. A 9.2 down 21%. A 9.0 down 10%. An 8.5 down 22%. An 8.0 down 40%, starting the year at 500, ending at 300. Big drop there. 7.5 down 15%. Another big drop at a 7.0 down 34%, starting the year at 380 and then ending at 250. And then a 6.5 was up 20% and a 6.0 up 33%. Started the year at 225, ended at 300. It averaged the year for 2023 down 14%. The biggest gain was a 6.0 at 33%. Biggest loss was an 8.0 at 40%. At number 5, we have Star Wars Clone Wars number 1, a 9.8 down 16%, starting the year at 1600, ending at 1350. A 9.6 started the year at 1095 and ended the year at 950. That's down 13%. A 9.4 down 10%. A 9.2 down 36%. 9.0 down 19%. An 8.5 was up 33% from 450 to 600. An 8.0 down 23%. A 7.5 up 5%. A 7.0 up 15% from 400 to 460. A 6.5 up 50%. Started the year at 400 and then one sold for $600. Now a 6.0, then a 5.5 up 30% from 308 to 400, and a 4.5 down 21%. That was the last one in its grade. And then the average for 2023 was down 1%. The biggest gain was 50% for 6.5. The biggest loss was a 9.2 at 36%. Now you might be wondering, like, why was there missing grades? Why wasn't there a 2.0 and a 1.5 and stuff like that? Normally with modern books, they don't span all the way down. I mean, most modern books are new, so they're all in pretty good shape. So you're not going to really find any in a 4.5 or a 2.0 or anything like that. So that's why those grades were missing, because they just don't exist. And if they do, they're not selling multiple copies in that year. So like I said, it has to sell multiple copies. That means it has to have one in the beginning and one in the end. If there's only one in the middle of the year, I can't put it on this list. I can't see, can't compare. So some of these, might not say sold in January. Usually the more, expensive ones at the higher end, where there's like a 9.8 or something like that, those sold all of the time. Maybe down like a 7.0, there'd just be one in March, and then the last one sold was like November. So not quite beginning to end. That's why some of those were missing. As you can see, overall, it looks like pretty much it was down for most everything. None averaged really up, other than Walking Dead averaged 4%, and Invincible averaged 13% up. The rest were down, but most everything was down. But those two keys seemed to do well. Probably Invincible because of the TV show. Now on to Copper Age. This usually spans from the very beginning of the 80s to like pretty much the beginning of the 90s. Again, I will count the sales from the beginning all the way to the end, and we'll see the difference. Did it go up? Did it go down? And these are my top 5. At number 1, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 1, the first print. This is the first appearance of the Turtles. There were no 9.8s that sold. I needed 2 of them. There was no 2 of them. There's no 9.6s at the beginning and at the end of the year. Couldn't use those. So the first grade I could actually use, where one sold at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, was a 9.4. It started the year at 28,800. It ended the year at 22,000. That is down 24%. A 9.2 started the year at 18,600. Ended the year at 16,800. That is down 10%. A 9.0 was up 17% from 18,000 at the beginning of the year, ending the year at 21,000. None at an 8.5, then an 8.0 down 17%, a 7.5 down 11%, a 7.0 down 20%. And then the next one was all the way down at a 6.0. It was up 18%, starting the year at 11,000, ending at 13,000. That averaged was 7% down for the year. A 6.0 was the biggest gain at 18%, and a 9.4 was the biggest loss at 24%. Next we got is The Crow, number 1. A 9.8 is down 35%, starting the year at 9,300, ending in at 6,000. A 9.6 down 20% from 2,400 to 1912. A 9.4 down 43% from 1625 to 930. A 9.2 down 10%. A 9.0 down 13%. An 8.5 down 12%. An 8.0 down 50%. Then we have our first one that went up, was a 7.0, up 5% from 475 to 530. Then 6.5 up 12% from 565 to 630. Then we have to go all the way down to a 4.0, and that started the year at 474, ended at 500, up 5%. It averaged in 2023 down 16%. Its biggest gain was up 12% at a 6.5, and its biggest loss was down 50% at an 8.0. Next, at number 3, we got Amazing Spider-Man number 300, first appearance of the Venom. A 9.8, started the year at 4,475, ended the year at 3,000, down 33%. A 9.6, started the year at 1,350, ended it at 1050, down 22%. A 9.4, down 14%. A 9.2, down 33%, starting the year at 685, ending at 456. A 9.0, down 23%. An 8.5, down 3%. An 8.0, down 18%. A 7.5, down 4%. A 7.0, down 26%. Man, nothing going up. A 6.5, down 23%. A 6.0, down 20%. A 5.5, down 35%. Starting the year at 350, ending at 228. A 5.0, down 13%. Then it goes down to a 4.0, down 18%. And that was it. Average was down 21% on this book. There was none that went up, and its biggest loss was 35% at a 5.5. At number 4, we got Bone number 1. A 9.6, down 16%, starting the year at 7,100, ending the year at 5,950. A 9.4, up 4%, starting the year at 3,862, and ending the year at 4,000. A 9.2, down 20%. A 9.0, down 22%. An 8.5, up 9%. An 8.0, down 10%. A 7.5, down 36%, starting the year at slightly under 2,000 and ending it at 1,276. And then that was the last grade for that book. Averaged for 2023, it's down 13% between all the grade ranges. An 8.5 was its biggest gain at 9%, and a 7.5 was its biggest loss at 36%. And finally, at number 5, we got New Mutants number 8, first appearance of Deadpool. A 9.8 is down 9%, starting the year at 1,400, ending at 1,275. A 9.6 down 18%, starting the year at 550, ending at 449. A 9.4 down 8%, a 9.2 down 14%, a 9.0 down 12%. An 8.5 went up 16%, starting the year at 270 and then ending at 314. An 8.0 down 8%, a 7.5 down 42%. That's a big jump, but here's even a bigger one. A 7.0 down 47%, starting the year at 300. The last sale was 159. A 6.5 down 17%. A 6.0 down 50%, starting the year at 300, ending at 150. A 5.0 up 16%, starting the year at 200, ending at 232. Then we have a 2.5 sold 163 and then ended the year at 140, down 14%. That was the last grade. It averaged in 2023 for a New Mutants 98, down 16% between all the grade ranges. Its biggest gain was an 8.5 at 16%, and its biggest loss was a 6.0 at 50%. Overall, Copper was down across every single book in the top 5, especially that Spider-Man 300, down 21% on average. Now, I know some books sell for a little cheap and some for more expensive. Say it's an auction, say it's buy it now, but I didn't do that. I just literally went from the first sale to the last sale, whatever it was. Maybe it was a buy now in the beginning, and the last one was an auction. So, usually auctions are a little cheaper. So made it look even further apart, but it could have been the reverse. Could have been the first one was an auction, the last one was a buy it now, made it seem like it was higher than normal. But these are just the different grades and everything that happened from the first of the year to the end of the year. So this is going to be the Bronze Age. Yes, from 1970 pretty much up to the early 80s. And these are going to be the top 5 keys in this category, and let's see how they did, if they went up or went down from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. First up is at number 1, we got Incredible Hulk, number 181, first appearance of Wolverine. A 9.8 was down 4% for the entire year. Started the year at 69,000 and ended at 66,000. A 9.6 down 23%, starting the year at 24,000, ending at 18,600. A 9.4 down 14%, a 9.2 down 13%, a 9.0 down 18%. An 8.5 down 9%, an 8.0 down 17%, a 7.5 down 16%. We got our first one going up, a 7.0 up 1%, starting the year at 4,440, ending the year at 4,501. A 6.5 down 34%, a 6.0 down 37%, starting the year at 4,750, ending at 2,959. A 5.5 down 5%. A 5.0 down 4%. A 4.5 down 19%. A 4.0 down 13%. A 3.5 down 22%. A 3.0 down 25%. A 2.5 down 19%. A 2.0 down 12%. A 1.8 down 18%. A 1.5 down 23%. A 1.0 down 30%. And a 0.5 down 27%. Pretty much all lost except one. The average for 2023 for Hulk 181 was down 18%. The biggest gain, only had one, was a 7.0, up 1%. Its biggest loss was down 37% in a 6.0. Next at number 2, we got Giant Size X-Men number 1. This is the first appearance in the new X-Men and the second appearance of Wolverine. A 9.8 started the year at 33,600, ended the year at 30,000, down 11%. A 9.6 down 13%, starting the year at 11,700, ending the year at 10,200. A 9.4 down 11%, a 9.2 down 16%, a 9.0 down 17%, an 8.5 down 24% at 4,850 in the beginning of the year, then ending at 3,650. An 8.0 down 6%, a 7.5 down 5%, a 7.0 down 12%, a 6.5 down 19%, a 6.0 down 23%, a 5.5 down 22%, a 5.0 down 11%, a 4.5 down 18%, a 4.0 up 2%, starting the year at 1375, ending the year at about 1400. A 3.5 down 6%, a 3.0 down 27%, a 2.5 down 19%, a 2.0 down 17%, 1.8 down 1%, and a 1.5 was the last one, down 10%. On average, it was down 14% for the year. Its biggest gain, only 2% from a 4.0. And its biggest loss was a 3.0 at 27%. At number 3, we got Amazing Spider-Man 129, first appearance of the Punisher. A 9.8, up 24%. That's good. Starting the year at 25,200, ending the year at 31,200. A 9.6, up 15%. Starting the year at 6,900, ending the year at a little over 7,900. A 9.4 was down 15%. A 9.2 down 25%. A 9.0 down 34%. Starting the year at 3,050, ending at 2,000. 8.5 down 15%. 8.0 down 28%. 7.5 down 1%. 7.0 down 7%. A 6.5 down 27%. A 6.0 down 17%. A 5.5 down 21%. 5.0 down 25%. A 4.5 down 28%. A 4.0 down 18%. A 3.5 was up 13% for selling about slightly under $1,000, ending the year at $1,133. But then a 3.0 down 45%, starting the year at $1,200, ending at $661. A 2.5 down 40%. A 2.0 down 15%. A 1.8 down 21%. A 1.5 down 18%. A 1.0 pretty much was about the same, down 0%, started the year at 650, ended at 649, and a 0.5 ended at 38%. That was an average of down 17%. Its biggest gain was actually a 9.8, up 24%. Its biggest loss was a 3.0, down 45%. At number 4, we got House of Secrets, number 92. This is the first appearance of Swamp Thing. The first one would be a 9.4, up 21%, starting the year at 11,900, ending it at 14,400. A 9.2, down 8% from 8,500 to 7,800. A 9.0 was up 34%, starting the year at 4,273, and then ended the year at 5,744. An 8.5 pretty much sold about the same, down 0%. An 8.0 down 32%. A 7.5 up 22%. A 7.0 about the same, down 0%. A 6.5 up 7%. A 6.0 up 2%. A 5.5 up 22%. A 5.0 down 2%. A 4.5 down 9%. A 4.0 down 1%. A 3.5 down 9%. A 3.0 up 10%. A 2.5 up 5%. And then the next one was a 1.5 up 18%. Started the year at 499, ended the year at 590. In 2023, it averaged actually up 5%. A 9.0 was its biggest gain for 34%, and an 8.0 was its biggest loss for 32%. At number 5, we got Marvel Spotlight number 5, first appearance of Ghost Rider. The first one would be a 9.4. It was down 11%, starting the year at 16,800, ending at 15,000. A 9.2, down 16%, starting the year at 9,300, ending at 78. A 9.0 down 17%. An 8.5 was up 3%, starting the year at 3385, ending it at 3500. An 8.0 down 19%. A 7.5 down 34%. A 7.0 down 18%. A 6.5 down 16%. A 6.0 down 35%. A 5.5 down 34%. A 5.0 down 8%. A 4.5 down 22%. A 4.0 down 45%, starting the year at 1250, ending at 690. A 3.5 down 14%. A 3.0 down 16%. A 2.5 down 11%. A 2.0 down 12%. And the last one would be a 1.8 down 39%, starting the year at 600, ending at 364. It averaged for the year 20% down. An 8.5 was its biggest gain at only 3%, and its biggest loss was a 4.0 at 45%. So Bronze Age was down quite a bit. The only one that actually even went up slightly was House of Secrets 92, First Swamp Thing. Marvel Spotlight number 5, First Ghost Rider was down the most. On average, Bronze got hit pretty hard because it also got the biggest jump in 2021, and so it's just been steadily going down ever since then. But that was Bronze Age. Now we're going to do Silver Age. This is the top 5 keys, how they started in the beginning of the year and where they ended at the end of the year. Let's see if they went up, stayed the same, or went down. Starting at number 1 is we got Amazing Fantasy 15, first appearance of SpiderMan. The first one to have a sale at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year was a 7.5. It is up 46%. It started the year at $117,000 and then ended the year at $170,844. The next one would be a 6.0, down 15%. Started the year at $78,000, ended the year at $66,000. A 5.0 was up 41%, starting the year at $49,500, ending the year at $69,601. Then we had a 4.5 up 16%, a 3.5 down 23%, a 3.0 up 16%, a 2.5 down 9%, a 2.0 down 48%, starting the year at $28,800, ending the year at $14,999. And then the next one would be a 1.0, ended the year down 15%. It started the year at $15,000, and then at the end of the year, the last sale for this book was $12,700. On average, 2023, it was up 1%, so that's good. A 7.5 was the biggest gain for 46%, and its biggest loss was a 2.0 at 48%. At number 2, we got Fantastic Four number 1. We had no 9.8 sales all the way down through a 7.0. The first sale where I had a sale at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, I need 2 sales, was at a 6.0. It started the year at $30,500, ended the year at $34,800. That is up 14%. A 5.5 was down 7%, starting the year at $32,400, ending the year at $30,000. A 5.0 up 23%, starting the year at $18,003, ending the year at $22,200. A 4.5 down 3%, a 4.0 down 2%, a 3.5 down 14%, a 3.0 down 20%, a 2.5 down 20%, a 2.0 up 21%, starting the year at $9,120, ending the year at $11,000. A 1.8 down 14%, a 1.5 up 4%, a 1.0 down 35%, and a 0.5 up 51%, starting the year at $4,494, ending the year at $6,800. On average, it was down 1% for Fantastic Four number 1. Its biggest gain was that 0.5 up 51%, and its biggest loss was a 1.0 at 35%. At number 3, we got Incredible Hulk number 1, first appearance of the Hulk. A 7.5 was the first one, down 22%, starting the year at $84,000, ending at $65,888. A 7.0 down 9%, starting the year at $63,000, ending it at $57,600. A 6.5 down 19%, a 6.0 down 28%, a 5.5 down 38%, a 5.0 down 19%, a 4.5 down 4%, a 4.0 down 8%, a 3.5 down 24%. Our first one going up was a 3.0, up 6%, starting the year at $16,800, ending at $17,761. A 2.5 up 14%, a 1.8 up 1%, a 1.5 down 12%, a 1.0 down 34%, a 0.5 down 12%. On average, this book was down 14%. Its biggest gain was up 14% for a 2.5, His biggest loss was a 5.5, down 38%. At number 4, we got Amazing Spider-Man number 1, the start of the Amazing Spider-Man run and the second appearance of Spider-Man. The first one would be a 7.5, down 0%. It pretty much started where it ended, at 38,400, and it ended at 38,400. A 7.0, up 4%, starting at 30,000, ending at $31,011. A 6.5, up 11%. A 6.0, down 25%. A 5.5, up 31%, starting the year at 14,400, ending the year at 19,000. A 5.0, down 33%. A 4.5, down 17%. A 4.0, down 17%. A 3.5, up 1%. A 3.0, down 7%. A 2.5, down 28%. A 2.0, down 30%. A 1.8, down 1%. A 1.5, down 48%, starting the year at 8,488, ending the year at 4,440. A 1.0, up 9%, and a 0.5, down 36%. On average, it was down 12%. Its biggest gain was 31%, and that was a 5.5. Its biggest loss was a 1.5, down 48%. At number 5, we got Journey and Mystery 83. The first one would be a 7.0, down 16%, starting the year at 31,200, ending at 26,123. Next, we got a 6.0, down 2%, a 5.5, down 9%, a 5.0, down 11%, a 4.5, down 2%, a 4.0, down 53%, starting the year at 10,600, ending it at 5,000. A 3.5, down 3%, a 3.0, down 7%, a 2.5, down 30%, a 2.0, down 5%, a 1.8, down 12%, a 1.5, down 41%, and a 1.0, down 4%. Overall, it was on average down 15%. Its biggest gain didn't have one. Its biggest loss was a 4.0, down 53%. Overall, Silver Age did a little bit better than Bronze, but still was pretty bad. Amazing Fantasy 15 was up overall, just slightly at 1%. But the biggest loss was Journey and Mystery 83. That was down 15%. But that's where most of them are around the 10 to 15% overall. So last now we got is the Golden Age top 5 keys to see how they did in 2023. Now here's the thing with the Golden Age. They're super rare. They rarely ever sell. So there's not going to be very much data to go off of. So I will show you if they did sell, what grade they sold in and how much they sold for. If there is a way to compare the prices, I will. But most of them, you're just going to have like one sell and like one random grade. All right. First is number 1 is Action Comics number 1. The only one to sell in 2023 was a 0.5 for $408,000. At the number 2 spot, we got Detective Comics 27, first appearance of Batman. The only one to sell was a 6.0 and $1.7 million. Then at number 3, we got Superman number 1. We had a 5.0 that sold for $675,000. But then at a 3.0, we did have one at the beginning of the year for $360,000, and then it ended the year at $300,000, so that's down 17%. A 1.5 also sold for $132,000, and a 1.0 sold for $101,000. At number 4, we got Batman number 1. We did have an 8.0 sell for about $1.1 million, a 7.0 sold for about $660,000, a 3.5 sold for $228,000, a 2.5 sold for $215,000. We did have a 1.8 in the beginning of the year sell for $126,000, and then it was up 10% because at the end of the year it sold for $138,000. And the last one on this list is Captain America Comics number 1. We had a 9.2 sell for $810,000, a 7.0 sell for a little over $300,000, a 3.5 sell for $168,000, a 3.0 sell for $126,000, and a 2.0 sell for $114,000. Overall, it wasn't a very good year for comics. Much better than 2022, but still, many comics still fell in price. Overall, the biggest drops were copper and bronze. They each fell for an average of 13% between the top 5 keys. Then you had 8% for about Silver Age, and then only 2% for the modern comics in the top 5 keys. Golden Age, very hard to tell. Overall though, I think 2024 will be a much better year. And I think by the end of it, we'll do this again, and we'll see that comic books have actually gone up. These top 5 keys in each of these categories have gone up throughout the year. That is my personal opinion. But as you can see, not very good for a lot of comics, some of them dropping by as high as 50%. Hope you liked the video. Have a great day.